Yeah, I mean, I think historically it's come from a number of places, and really it depends on what you're using the compression garments for. So they're typically used either for enhancing performance, in which case you're going to be looking for improvements in blood flow, or you're looking at reducing swelling and inflammation. So a lot of the reduction in swelling and inflammation comes from the traditional rest, ice, compress and elevate, or like clinical settings where we use compression to help patients with diseases like lymphedema or like swelling of the limbs and things like that. So we know that compression can help reduce the accumulation of fluid in a limb. So that is the similar response that happens to muscle injury when we exercise. So if we're exercising and getting a small amount of muscle damage, which is associated with an inflammatory response, the application of pressure might minimize that inflammation and help us accelerate the recovery process.